All right, guys, welcome back to Turbo Time. We're gonna start this video by finishing the install of the thermal spacer. I'm gonna give you guys what size hardware you need because the hardware that will come with your kit doesn't work when you add the spacer. You're not getting enough thread engagement, and I'm gonna include that in this video. Give you a link and all that. We're gonna be installing the motive reflex as well as all the port injection. I'm gonna be making all my own fuel lines and connections for the port rail, and I'm gonna show you how you can too. So stay tuned. All right, guys, while I highly recommend you fit this spacer as you're doing your initial install, if you're like me and maybe you didn't get the spacer or you had a problem during the install, you will not have to take off the entire manifold to fit it, as long as we go ahead and pull back our evap stuff. I loosened up the harnesses, I took off this charge pipe, and now we are just going to go ahead and loosen the hardware to the manifold and pull it back out of the way just enough and see if we can't get the spacer in there. I'm going to try to do it without taking off the throttle body. We're going to get it back a little bit, see if we can comfortably fit the spacer and button it all back up. Till this point, I mainly haven't installed the port injection because the port injection would all need to come out in order to do this. So, like I said, you won't have to take off the entire manifold, but I definitely highly recommend putting in this spacer while you do the original install. All right, guys, so TMS has a pretty good video as well as the instructions that come on a link right on their box for this motive install as far as everything you're doing inside the car. But as always, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that I learned along the way. So these panels here, although a little bit nerve-wracking, they do pull straight up. On this other front panel, it'll be easier to show you the actual panel. What you really want to do with it is pull forward on this panel, pull out a little bit, and then these clips will come out. So if we're here in the car, they're going to come out that way. Next is going to be the grommet that I used to get the wire in the car. With the TMS harness, there's only the one wire that has to feed into the car to integrate with that can splitter. I just got a razor blade and kind of cut a square in this, and I was able to get this grommet right on through. Now I'm going to be routing all of this wiring. Don't let it intimidate you. I know that there's a lot of stuff coming out of here. We're going to route it all. It's actually really simple. In real life, there's only 3 plugs and the rest of it, well, 4 plugs, and the rest of it is really just the fuel injectors and your ethanol sensor. So we're going to get to it. I'm going to get all of this wired up, and then we're going to go ahead and drop the injectors and get everything plugged in and buttoned up. All right, guys, I'm going to start by assembling these injectors. You'll get these top hats in your kit. They look like that. The kit will bring these. Anytime you're putting together something that has O-rings, I like to get a little bit of oil. You don't need a whole bunch. I usually just get a little bit on my finger and you coat these O-rings. Make sure they slide in, we don't get any tears. Avoid problems in the future. So anywhere where it's gonna make contact, just a little bit. Doesn't have to be a whole lot. All we're putting is a little bit of oil on it. Make sure we're gonna get a nice smooth assembly. Even that there was too much. And then you'll feel it slide right in. Wipe off any excess. These injectors go together with these clips. The clips only fit in one way. They'll snap into place. That's what it'll look like. The manifold will have these bungs. They will have plugs in them. You get all of those out. There's a few different ways to do this. I personally like to put the injectors on the rail first, on the manifold first, kind of orient them where I want them, and then I'll line up the rail. You just make sure you're getting them all seated. You'll feel them as you drop them in. Once the rail is on, the injectors will still swivel a little bit. In the case of this rail, it only really goes on one way. It has these notches. So we're going to try to line it up with our injectors. Get our injectors all lined up. Guys, so that was the easy part. We have our injectors seated. The CES kit has the bolts bolt right to the manifold. This manifold isn't threaded, so it brings these little nuts that make it a little bit more challenging to get it on there, but still goes right on, lines up good. Now we have our rail and injectors. All right, so we got this harness most of the way in. I will go under the car and show you guys where that crank sensor goes. None of the videos really seem to have it from TMS with this particular harness. I don't know if any of the other guys have it. It's quite a challenging plug to get out just because of its position. But with this TMS harness for the port, we have our injectors all plugged in. Then you have your charge pipe sensor, your intake cam sensor, and then it gets power from the PCV heater. Most of you guys will have that deleted and that plug will just kind of be empty. So you just try to run the wires in line with the other stuff as clean as possible. And everything comes into this box, and we're going to keep wiring everything up, getting everything ready, and then we'll move on to supplying fuel. All right, guys, this crank position sensor, what you're looking for is this one back here closest to the transmission. I gained access by moving this bracket that's attached to these cooler lines. The plug goes in there like this. You have to release that white clip, push on it and pull it out. I did this with some angled needle nose pliers. It was the only way I could get in there. All right, guys, on to the plumbing for the port injection. On this table is everything that you need. The only thing not here, because I already connected that sensor to the motive reflex, is your low pressure fuel pump sensor. that goes to the 6AN to 1.8 NPT. I'm gonna post all of this stuff in the description, but just quickly, what you need is 5/16 to 6AN, 6AN junction, and then a 3/8 quick connect to 6AN. That'll be for your ethanol sensor. On the other side, we have another 3/8 to 6AN. These are 90 degree with a 6-inch hose and a straight. You're gonna have 2 of those. You need a 90 degree 6AN elbow, and then of course your T, which is 6AN T, 1 female side, and then the 2 male ends. Let's go over to the car. All right, guys, so over here at the car, we have one more 90 degree elbow, and then this is our 6AN to 1.8 NPT. That's for this sensor. Now I'm gonna show you guys how we put this thing together. All right, guys, we're gonna start with this line. Right here, what we have is the 90 going to the fuel rail. We have our pressure sensor with another 90 coming to our hose. I'm gonna go ahead and install that. You wanna put in this line in first as it goes behind. All right, guys, so the way our first line goes in, fuel rail, there's your pressure sensor, 90, the 90, and it tucks right on back to our T. Let's go ahead and put in the ethanol sensor. And this is our high pressure fuel line. This goes to the high pressure fuel pump. So now our second line is gonna slide right on that quick connector. It's gonna come out of there. You route it right under here and everything comes to your T. So right there we have the connection from our hard line to our port injection fuel rail, as well as our high pressure fuel pump, along with our low pressure fuel sensor and our ethanol sensor. All right, guys, next is the low pressure fuel pump setup. We'll be running a Visconti stage 1 pump. This is all the hardware and everything it brings. I will be giving you guys a walkthrough on this installation in the next video. It does come with the plug and play harness. This will come directly to the Motive Reflex to be able to integrate this pump. So for now, we're waiting for Sumo Tune to go ahead and update my Motive Reflex firmware. This is something he does from any desk. He does it remotely for you. So if you don't know how, he'll take care of all that. We're gonna get this base map loaded up. I am gonna start the car up real quick and make sure that we don't have any fuel leaks from any of our connections. But other than that, as always, guys, if you enjoy the content, if it helps you, share, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.